My cat takes her rightful place, and hopefully she'll be a good girl there. All righty. Time for our mini workshop, presented by Gwen Briesemeister. She has been working in documentary film for the past 15 years, creating short films about ordinary people with extraordinary stories. She's a member of the Minnesota Docu Club and has had several short films screened at film festivals throughout the area. Her most current work has been writing, directing, and editing several political acts for a Minnesota candidate for state senate. This work has combined her documentary and editing experience with a narrative twist. Gwen was also an educator for 41 years, specializing in gifted education, and served as president of the Minnesota Educators of Gifted and Talented, and has received numerous educational awards for her work with gifted and talented learners. Let's welcome Gwen Briesemeister.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. I'm experimenting with the new microphone tonight, so we will see. Thanks, Roman, for indulging me. All right. Topic this evening, not nearly as fun as all the previous topics this evening. Copyright, or a tale of theft in the 21st century. And I'm here to tell you that all of you probably have been thieves. As you look at what the rules are for copyright, almost all of us are. Most of us will be again, even after I give you this presentation. It's just too easy. But I wanted to bring this up because lately, I did this a lot with my high school students because they would steal everything. So I wanted to do this with adults because some situations came up lately that I understand that, or I knew that adults didn't understand either about copyright and really what you can and cannot do. For example, I knew a videographer that was ready to send the video to the couple, and they insisted that they must have these 3 songs in their video. Just had to. It's their songs. They needed to have it. He said, well, I really can't do that. I'm selling this. I cannot sell someone else's music. I can't do that. Oh, but we just have to have it. He said, okay, well, let me find out what it would cost you. I'll go to ASCAP and find out what it would cost. And when he came back, they mysteriously changed their mind because it was $10,000 to use those songs. So even though it's probably going to be primarily in the privacy of their home, it was coming from someone that was making money off of that. So $10,000. Another example, I was working on a documentary several years ago, and I needed to use a little clip from a Swedish tenor. And he did his recordings in the 1930s. So very obscure. Nobody had ever heard of him. I'd never heard of him. But I wanted to use this particular tenor because it was very significant to the story. So I did contact ASCAP myself at that time. I wanted to use under 30 seconds of that particular piece. It would have cost me $500 to use this very, very obscure piece. And in fact, I went to Sweden first. I didn't go to Sweden, but I contacted the people in Sweden. They said, no, all the rights now are in the United States with ASCAP again. And it would have cost me $500. So, if you can't have what you want, you change your mind. So, which is exactly what I did. And also I found that when I was working with the political ads, the person I was working with said, oh, when we do this ad, I have to have this song. Everyone's told me, got to have this song in it. And I just said, we're not going to discuss that at all. We're not using any copyright music whatsoever that's going to be thrown out there on Facebook. So it's really something that's still, current today. So that's why I wanted to talk about this. I wanted to give you one other example as well. So let me just play this little video, and I'll tell you a little bit of story about this.
What? Oh, it's your birthday again. Yeah, so what am I supposed to do here? Am I supposed to sing happy birthday to you every time it's your birthday? Alright, fine, this is it. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Alright?
Well, I wanted to put that in there because there's another example of copyright infringement. This, and a lot of you probably don't know that this particular song has been copyrighted since 1935. by the Warner Chappell Music Group. And they owned it for a long, long time. They owned it until 2015. They collected around $2 million a year royalty rights to use that song. And it wasn't until 2013 that a filmmaker actually challenged the fact that they were actually owning that copyright, because the song actually was written in the 1800s. But they got the copyright, challenged it, and won the case. So from 2015 on, it has not been copyrighted. But before that time, many films that wanted to use that had to pay the royalty rights in order to use that song. Especially documentary, Hoop Dreams, for instance, they had to pay $5,000 to use Happy Birthday. It's a documentary, so you couldn't like edit it out or come up with another idea. It was very important that that particular scene stay in the film, so they paid the $5,000. So that's an example of copyright. You either pay the money or you don't use it. And especially if it's going out in the public, if it's going to be a film, if it's going to be out there where everyone's going to see it, someone's going to find it. You can't get by with it. And in fact, you have to prove if you're going to put it on in the public, like in a theater or on TV, you have to prove every second of that film is something that you have the rights to use. So Happy Birthday is a great example. All right, let's get to what we're going to talk about today. We're going to understand what copyright is and why it is important. Understand how to claim fair use. We'll talk more about each of these different components. We're going to understand the public domain concept and options for not becoming a 21st century pirate. All right? All right, so let's start with copyright. Now, one thing that's interesting is that probably all of you have something that's copyrighted, because it does not have, you do not have to register that particular piece or whatever it is. Maybe it's some music that you've written, maybe it's a painting that you've done, maybe it's a PowerPoint that you've created, maybe it's a new concept, maybe it's a book. It could be many, many different things. If you've written it, you're the originator, you own the copyright to that. So the exclusive legal right given to an originator. So it does not have to have an actual stamp on it. If you are the originator, you own the copyright to it. Or an assignee. So you could give someone else that right, or you could give it away. That's okay. They can own that copyright. And if you are the originator or an assignee, then you have the right to print it, to publish, to perform, to film, record literary, artistic, or musical materials, and authorize others to do the same. So it doesn't have to be that I own it and you can never touch it. You can choose to let other people touch your toys. That's okay. But you have to have that copyright. You have to be able to prove then that you are the owner of that. So that's actually what it is. All right, so why do we have it? What's the purpose of copyright? It really was developed to promote creativity, innovation, and spread of knowledge, because you don't want to be the author of a book and have someone else just steal it and put their name on it, right? It could happen if there's not a copyright. You don't want to perform a song and then find out later that someone's got a whole album of your music that they heard at the bar down the street. You want to be able to protect that. You don't want to find, I'm sure we don't want to see a book that says, what, Barry Totter and the Sorcerer's Stone. You know, we know it's Harry Potter. But I could change that if it wasn't a copyright. I could do whatever I wanted to do with it. It protects that, and so that people are going to be more motivated to create creative works. Okay? All right, if you own a copyright, which, as I said, probably every one of you owns some sort of copyright. If you do, you have the right to reproduce that. So if you wrote a book, you have the right to reproduce that book. If you made a painting and you want to make posters out of it, you have every right to do that. You can prepare derivative works. In other words, I wrote a song. I could then make it a long, extended play. I could make it an acoustic song. I could make it a techno song. I can do anything I want with it if I own the copyright. If I don't own it, then I can't do those kinds of things. I can distribute copies of the painting, of the book, of the speech, whatever it might be. I can distribute those copies. I can perform the work if it's mine, if I own the copyright. And I can display that work publicly without having to worry about, am I breaking any rules here? All right, so there are some rules about how much you can use, or when you can use things and when things are available to you. We're going to talk about that. That comes under the public domain and some of those kinds of things that we'll talk about in just a minute. But it's interesting to look at how it's really set up. Now, all of these things, you're going to find some exceptions where in this piece it's different, or in this piece it's different again. But these are some general rules about the copyright length. So all works published in the United States before 1923 are in the public domain. So anything up to midnight of December 31st, 1922, all of that's in public domain. So if you want to use something from Rembrandt, you're free to do that. You can do anything you want with it. You can change it. You can add colors. You can do anything you want. You can make posters of it and sell it. It's all in the public domain. If you wanted to sing a song maybe from Stephen Foster, Down Upon the Swanee River, that was all before that time. So any of those works are there. Yes?
So is it set to that date, or is it like 100 years?
I'll get to that. The public domain is set to that date and before. But there's other things out there. That's what we're going to talk about next. Works published after 1922, but before 1978, are protected for 95 years. Okay, as long as it's published. So had that been published from the date of publication. Okay, again, you're a lawyer. You're probably going to be able to find 100 different exceptions of why that's not the case. But this is a general rule of thumb. There's another rule. If the work was created but not published before 1978, the copyright lasts for the life of the author plus 70 years. So I think you can go up to about 1927, right, if I did the math right now, back. But anything after that is going to fall into one of these second two copyright rules. Okay? All right, so what can you do? Copyright sounds like it's really hard. I can't steal anything, right? Or there's not much I can use, or it's really old. That's part of the reason. So one of the things you can do is you can check to see who owns it. I did a documentary about the Greatest Generation, and I found this really good B-roll footage on an old VCR tape, and I noticed it was published by Reader's Digest. So I contacted them, and they were very kind and said, yeah, you're going to use it for a really good purpose. Use anything you want. And it was like a whole set even. Use anything you want on that. So you might get lucky and find that someone's willing to share. Probably mostly you're not going to get lucky, but you can get lucky, okay? Get permission to use it, which is what I did. I contacted them and I got permission to use it so I could feel pretty comfortable because it did air on demand in Minneapolis, so I wanted to make sure I had some copyrights to that. Sometimes it's just giving credit to the creator, even if not, it's always a good idea. If someone's made it, give them credit for it. They worked hard and they own it, so why not? And then there's other options that you can do. You can buy, you can subscribe. This is what I usually do because it's just a lot easier. I don't have to keep searching. Not that I don't try to find free things, but this is just an easy way. When I was doing the ads lately, I needed a lot of B-roll stuff, and I tried to find a lot myself, and then went out and filmed in farms and tromping through fields and things like that to get the B-roll I needed for the ag pieces. But there was things where, people's homes or retirement pictures, and I didn't want to do all that. So I was able to find footage by just subscribing to a site, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. So what else could I do? I can also create my own media. If any of you have an Apple computer, you have GarageBand. You can make your own music if you want. You can record your own music. It's pretty easy to record music now if you play a guitar or a piano or you sing. You could do your own if you wanted to. That's an option. I would never do that, but some of you might think that's a wonderful idea. Go for it. You can search that public domain. I'm going to show you how to do that in a little bit here. So see what's out there. Look at some of the sites that might have public domain. Look at the things that are out there. Do a little bit of history research because it's going to be pretty old stuff is what you're going to have to find. Especially if you're looking for a video. There's not a whole lot before 1922. Yeah. Search for the Creative Commons and royalty-free kinds of things. So the things that I subscribe to are royalty-free. That's what I like to use, so I don't have to worry about it. It tells me right off the bat, go ahead and use it as long as you subscribe to the site. And then you can also claim fair use, and we'll talk more about each one of those to give us an idea. All right, let's start with public domain because that's the easiest one. So if a book, a song, a movie, artwork is in the public domain, then you do not have to worry about it at all. You can use it in any way you want. You do not have to give credit to anyone. You can change it, you can sell it, you can reproduce it. You do not have to ask permission whatsoever. So if you find anything that's in the public domain, feel free to use it. But as I said, a lot of the reasons is because it's really old. And if you're not doing anything that's about something that's really old, it's probably not going to be helpful. But you never know when you might find something really interesting. Okay, another area we could go to is the Creative Commons. And that is actually a license that you can subscribe to or ask for or get a application for. It really what it does, the Creative Commons area, is it gives the owner the right to give it to you if you want to use it. But they have 6 different layers of how they can give that ownership to you. So they have a license, and you can see this when you look up Creative Commons. You can find they'll tell you what kind of a license they have. These are all the different licenses. So it goes from use it, I don't care, don't tell anyone it's mine, even that's fine. So it's really almost like a public domain kind of piece. But all the way up to, well, you can use it, but you can't change it. You can use it, but you have to give me credit. You can use it, but you can't sell it. If you're going to make money off of it, then you can't use it. So it's all different kinds of licenses. So you do need to kind of be aware of that if you find Creative Commons. And these are really pretty easy to find. So something that you can think about if you can find that. And I'm going to show you, if you do a search, if you're on, my pointer wouldn't work, so I would be pointing to where it is on the screen, but I'll point over to the TV here myself. If you're going to do an image search, and that only works for images, if you go in here and you click on tools there, if you've ever done that before.
The other remote that's sitting by my
Does it work?
it's got a laser pointer.
Oh, good. Yeah, mine wouldn't work after I hooked it up to the TV. Let's see.
So it should be at the top there.
This little? Oh, it's hooked up to, it's hooked up here. I won't go here.
Yeah, I'll show you which one it is. Here, just bring it here, I'll show you.
All right.
Oh, it's the middle button.
Middle button.
Yep, on the bottom.
Right here. This one?
No,
Okay.
the three buttons on the bottom.
3 buttons. All right, there we go. All right. Let's see if we can.
The lights on. No, it's there.
Oh, it won't go on the. I'll point. Go to tools when you do a search, okay? All right. Then, next slide. When you do that, you will have some choices. You know what? One of the things I learned this from a student to use these tools, because he said, "Oh, if you go to color and you go down to transparent, if you want to put it into something, it gets rid of the whole background. So any image that says transparent, you just copy it, throw it in, if it's not copyrighted." Okay, so you use tools, and you go to where it says usage, and you'll have some choices, and it says Creative Commons license. So if you click on that, then only thing that comes up is something that has Creative Commons. So which I found, this particular one that I used had a Creative Commons. So when I went to that, I clicked on it and go visit that site. And I could see on here it says public domain even. So it's really, I don't even have to do a thing with it. I can use it all day if I want to. And I clicked on that again, and it gives me even more information. It says public domain. I'm really safe in using that. So use those tools. That would be a quick way. If you're using images anyway, you might be able to find that some of those work. Okay, so what if I don't want to find it on the internet that way? There's lots and lots of ways that you can find things that are public domain and Creative Commons. So some of these are going to, and there's just gobs of them. I'm just going to show you a list of a couple different ones. Some of these are images only. Some of them are video. Some are images and video. Some are music. All different kinds of things that are out there. Now, some of these are, you pay to subscribe to it. I go to Vidivo. That's the one I use. I'm not saying it's the best, but it was the most cost effective. For me, it's $144 a year. I can go crazy and use anything I want on that site. So, I used many clips when I was doing 9 commercials. I used, it was well worth the money, just the $144 for just that period of time. So I pay that for a year. And there's videos and photos, and there's a lot of really good stuff because it comes from iStock photos and things that you can't, they're really expensive, but they share some of that with iStock. And then the other thing is Soundstripe. I use that one a lot. I pay for that one for the month because I think if I don't need that month, I'm just going to drop it that month, and I have a project, then I can go to it. And there's really good musicians on there every week there's new music on there, and it'll give you a way to search. I want it to be aggressive. I want it to be driving. I want it to be corporate. I want it to be sad. You can look for music that way, and you don't have to go through and listen because you could go down a rabbit hole listening to music on there. It's all going to be meant for film, so there's not, most of it's not singing. There is some that are singing, but most of it's going to be really good stuff for background music. So I use that one. That's $14.99 because I pay for the month. It's a little cheaper if I paid for the year, but I don't want to use it all the time. So I use that one. But all of these are going to be ones that you can use. Incompetech is one that is basically free all the time. It's not great, but there's enough on there that it really serves. I use this for years, and I had students use it for years. All he asks is that you give him credit. So at the end, throw his name in there and say, hey, music provided by la 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 la. And so that works really good. So kind of a combination. Some of these things have, like Purple Cloud has some free things, some paid things. So there's just a variety, but there's a lot of things out there that help you avoid copyright. Okay, so try any of those sites. And again, these are just some that I use, and don't forget the government sites. A lot of times the government sites have things available, a lot of historical things like that. All right, another area that you could try is fair use, although this one's really hard because if you're not in education, it's a little hard to use that one. Sorry, I'm going to just get rid of my scam likely person here. All right, fair use. Fair use permits a party to use a copyrighted work without the copyright owner's permission. Think, yay, I love that. For purposes such as criticism, if you're going to write something in a newspaper or news reporting, if you are teaching in class and you want to use something, if you are researching, it works for that. So it really is, in some areas, it's really great. For most of us, it's not so great because we're not going to be able to say that this is what it's going to be used for. But if you can find a way to fit it in there, then you might be able to claim fair use. There are 4 factors when you think about fair use. What's the purpose of it? What are you going to do with it? Are you going to use it for education or are you selling it? So there's a difference right there. It's like, you're selling it? No fair use for you. But let's say yes. The nature of what you're going to do with it. Where are you going to put this? Is it going to be shown publicly? And that's a big piece of fair use. Is, are you putting it out there or are you doing it in your living room somewhere? That's different. But if it's out there, you're going to show it somehow publicly, then it's not going to be able to use fair use for sure. What's the effect? That means, does it have some sort of monetary effect on the person that owns that material? Are you going to take away something from them that they could make money off of so that you can use it? If it's not, then you might be able to use fair use. And then how much of that material are you going to try and use and claim fair use? And I'm going to show you a little bit of the limits on that too. It's kind of shocking because my students, this is where they get in. They say fair use, education. It's a cool project. I can use it. But they'll do this. Okay, music. I'm gonna use the whole song. Really? You can use 10% or 30 seconds, whichever is less. So if the song is 2 minutes, you don't get 30 seconds. Okay, so keep that in mind. Music and lyrics. Video, 10%. So if it's a big, long video that, maybe a feature-length film, you can use 3 minutes of it. And you can kind of see, like, if someone's doing a critique on TV and they want to do a movie review, they use a short clip because for that reason, yes, it's very useful for them to do that and they don't have to pay, but they have to limit it. So it's not going to be a 10-minute review. All right. Text, 10% or 1,000 words. And this is where my kids will just like copy pages after pages, the whole paragraph, put it in. So very careful with that. So they have to learn about that. And then photos and images, 5 images by any one creator. So if you have a certain artist that you're doing work about, unless you're going to do Rembrandt, you have to contact that person, try to get permission to get more if you need it. Say you're doing a study about a particular artist. You need to do that. Okay. So, have you ever been a 21st century thief? I would say that all of you should say yes. Yeah, all of you have been, and I have too. And I know that I will continue to, because once in a while I'm just going to do it. Because I don't have time right now to do it. If I know it's not going to be seen somewhere, I might do that. But I really do try to not do that. But I know that it's really tempting. Okay. Quiz time. All right. A teacher plays a movie for her class that she has checked out from the library as a reward on Friday afternoon. Does this violate copyright law? Thumbs up, yes. Thumbs down, no. It's a little bit of both. Depends on what the movie is. First of all, she doesn't own it to show it publicly. The library owns it. You check it out for your own personal use. You're showing it in a class. It's not personal use, right? It's a public use. That's one problem. Second problem is, what is the second problem? The subject matter. If you were, let's say you were studying about wolves, and this particular movie would really be a great way to kind of end the wolf unit, or it might be a National Geographic kind of film. It would be great to add. You probably could use it then. So, but if you've been studying wolves and then you're going to look at Home Alone, it's probably not going to work. So it's a yes or no. Yes and no, I should say.
What about dances with wolves?
Dances with wolves. Oh, there you go. See, there's always something. All right, in order to have your intellectual property legally protected by copyright, you must file an application with the U.S. Copyright Office before anyone tries to use your work. Thumbs up, yes. Thumbs down, no. No is right. You do not have to go. Some people like to do that because they want to really make sure that they have a documented path of when this was made, but you don't have to. Maybe you have a diary. We have other ways that you can document that it's yours. So you don't have to.
Comedy, you would always have a copy. You would always film yourself on stage the first time you ever used it.
Yes. Then that would be a great way for someone to steal, because it's like, oh, that was a great joke. I'm going to add it in my stand-up. Yep. And one more question. You download Who Let the Dogs Out from iTunes in order to use it in a birthday party video that will be played at the party. Does this violate copyright? Yes. Thumbs up.
I'm going to say yes.
Thumbs down, no. Depends on where this party is. If it's in your home, it probably is going to be okay. If it's like, hey, there's a video made for the boss and it's been here for 30 years and we're putting it out at the dinner club, that would be different, because now it's a very public venue, so you can't just do it. And this is what the mistake I would say that my students do is they think when you download a song, you own it. You do own it for yourself. You don't own it to use it in public. That's why the videographer couldn't say, oh yeah, put it in there, because you can't use it. You only use it for your own self, but you can't put it out there for public use or sell it in any way or change it in any way. All right, so I'm hoping that you'll know a little bit more about copyright. Maybe you'll be a little bit more when you download that extra picture or that song or that video to slide into your website or into that little presentation. And just keep in mind that there are lots of different alternatives that you can use when it comes to copyright. All right. Thank you.